Hey, my computer didn't stutter tonight. Welcome, everybody. Exit. Exit out the back door. Now we're starting the show. I didn't mean to say exit. Episode 223. Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have you. I feel in some strange way that I have thousands of friends that I've never met. And maybe that's true for everybody in this life. But, like, there's people who listen, man. And maybe they're like, no, Matt, you're not our friend. Ben is. So Ben's here. Josh is here. Nick's here. We're all here tonight. Stagger Stance presented by TitanDiscGolf.com. What do you have to say about that, Nick?
Speaking of TitanDiscGolf.com, they're awesome. We love Titan Disc Golf. I'm actually stoked to get one of the hats, hopefully as soon as possible.
One. It's
there we go.
It's in a bag over here. I can see it off the side. So when you're around sometime.
Perfect. Look, they got all the competitive pricing. They've got exclusives. One of the biggest things that I've noticed since moving down to Florida is the lightweight discs. People absolutely love them. And they have a full-blown section on their website that is for 150 class discs. All the manufacturers that you can talk about. We have a 10% code. Remind me, guys, Staggered Stance. I just want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Single word,
so
Staggered Stance. Okay.
Staggered Stance, 10% off, except for MVP discs, because why? They already got the rock bottom pricing going on. Free shipping over $75, which I know is huge in today's world right now. Just getting free shipping on that, but nothing but good things to say about Titan Disc Golf and Matt Schlabach over there. I know he's got 2 stores out in the Iowa area, and so hopefully one day I'd actually love to go check one out in person. But once again, code Stagger Stance gets you 10% off. Huge shout out to them for being the presenting sponsor of Staggered Stance. So we appreciate them.
Yeah, absolutely. I did get to visit the Des Moines location and eat steak inside the pro shop. Now, I can't guarantee steak for everybody, but I did that, and that was pretty special. Yeah. And it was cool.
Did he cook a good steak?
It was a great, well, he cooked 4 or 5 great steaks, and then you got to choose what your favorite was. I mean, where can you go wrong? Something
steak battle, baby.
And we just got to see Matt at the Disc Golf Expo, and we talked about that last week. What a fantastic thing. So cool seeing Matt out there. Obviously, Gannon second up to Matt in many ways. Just kidding, Gannon. So anyways, yeah, we got a show for you. It is an off season. We're going to be talking about things, making predictions, possibly. Should be pretty good. Where are we going? We
gotta start it out. Josh, I know you wrote the notes and everything for the show, but we gotta start it out. I don't even know if we said this last week. I know we were talking about it. I think it just recently got announced. Ricky Wysocki gone from DD. Kona gone from DD. Was that before last week's episode?
Or
after?
I don't think we talked about it on here.
Okay. Right, it was just after they announced it the next day or that next morning.
But
yeah.
It was the next morning.
Anyways, we've been talking about it. We've been speculating about it. We've heard rumors through the grapevine. Not that any of us actually think, know where he's going, but we know where Kona's going. Kona went to Innova Discs.
She returned.
Ricky
returned home.
Yeah.
She said a posted back home.
I'm coming home.
But I don't know if she meant back home. She was literally home, like at her home, childhood home, or if she's back with Innova. Yeah. Either way, there's a play on words there, I'm sure.
Exactly. So now the big thing, I mean, I feel like at this point, it's the last biggest news of the season, or the off season, I should say, is where is Ricky going? I know the biggest ones right now are Discraft and MVP Discs, and I've heard a little bit of rumors about Discmania. But for the most part, I think everyone has kind of been shouting out Discraft and MVP in that. So I think
far-fetched, Nick. Far-fetched to stay in House of Discs. If he went to Discmania, there'd just be a lot of reasons why that wouldn't look good for House of Disc. But that aside, my first ever source with even Josh. Yeah, we haven't talked about this yet. Remember, you and I brought takes, right? And everyone did. And I said, within this week, before our next show, and then we took off the next show. I kind of knew that would happen. No, I was off by probably about 10 days from my prediction. So didn't get it right. I want to be on record with that. But it did happen, Josh. So what does that tell you? We don't know the details yet. But you said for this to happen, there would have to be a few things that were part of that most likely. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I acknowledged that something was going on with DD where they were having to, and again, none of this is inside knowledge. This is speculation. But they were going to have to either totally void the contract, hopefully some legal way to do that, or what do you call it? Like not counter offer, but basically renegotiate, right? Because of their business. So it's like they come back to the table, renegotiate. It's probably some much, much lower amount, if even an option, right? Again, and that was always the question is, could their lower amount be surpassed by some other manufacturer?
Right.
That was the key. And I think that's where it's like, well, who knows? And I still think, of course, that's fundamentally the answer. I guess we know half the equation now, which is Didi, their offer was too low to make it worth staying. And that doesn't guarantee that someone else is paying more, but for Ricky, the all-in deal, right? The brand perception, the future, where he's at. We always talk about switching manufacturers generates early revenue in a cycle. And even for Ricky, just feeling like what's happening with House of Discs, DD. Can we take a few minutes here since we're on this topic and reflect and say back when both they're separate. And so we have to evaluate them separately, but Ricky and Kona deal. How did you feel about the deal when it was signed then and now seeing how it's played out? And by the way, there are so many factors between then and now. So I'm not saying that's an easy formula, but like, it's just interesting to see. This rarely happens.
I look back at it as one of those moments, if I was DD, but obviously I'm me, but I look back at that moment as, hey, that's one of those moments you roll the dice in a way where you feel like the odds are in your favor, but you don't know what will happen. And I think this is one of those, they found out what happened, right? It could have went the other way, potentially, right? And that was the big game play that they did. Just real quick before others give their insight on that, one of the funniest comments in social media I saw about this was, imagine if they just played the videos of Ricky's announcement in reverse, like he walks backwards onto the helicopter and it goes away. I thought that was one of the funniest things.
That's funny.
Just imagining that, they're like, Ricky's gone, Conan's gone, to get back on the helicopter. They did reuse some of the clips in their announcement, getting a little bit more out of that money that they had to spend for that announcement. They're like, we're going to reuse these videos because we can't make new ones. Maybe that's speculating a little much, but like, yeah, gone. I think it was a roll of the dice with them feeling like the odds were in their favor.
Yeah. So it's purely hindsight. So I'll acknowledge that. It's not like I had some take right 3 years ago. Like that's not what I'm saying. But in hindsight, I get some validation of what I felt at the time, which was, wow, this feels like it's overextending, hoping the market stays hot. It also felt like trying to make a splash. The fact that they communicated publicly Bitcoin, it just kind of felt like we're going to make some news. And even the FPO side, it felt like we're going to make some news, right? And
yes.
Ricky certainly deserved a top tier contract. I mean, he performed well, but there was always a question of like, are you chasing the $1 million because that's the mark, or is he deserve like a $750,000 deal? And I'm making that number up, but it felt like trying to make a splash. And with Kona, that always felt like unsettled. And all you ever heard was, well, she's got a big social media presence and it's going to make up for it, which might have been the equation. And obviously we know she also had some really challenging health issues that I think, she's navigated well, but probably still facing to some extent. So it's just like, again, hindsight makes it easy for me to have this opinion now, but I'm kind of like, I don't know if I ever felt like that was going to quote unquote pay off.
Yeah. I think there's two guys in the sport who are the $1 million men, Simon Lizotte, Paul McBeth. I think those are the only two right now that are worth it to a company to actually pay them $1 million. Like, I think their investment is kind of secured and guaranteed with those two players. Everyone else right now just doesn't move plastic like they do, move apparel like they do, anything like that. And so, especially MVP kind of slid in literally at the perfect time. And Simon's following was massive beforehand, but then MVP just really turned into this almost like they got a cult following with them now, like the MVP fanatics, whatever they call themselves.
MVPeeps.
Yeah, MVPeeps.
No, I think that's an Eagle thing.
Oh, gotcha. That's funny. But yeah, I think those are the two guys that in the sport can, guarantee you're going to make over $1 million because of that player. Now, it could be $1.1 million, but at the same time, at least they're making that money, right? Like, who knows how much they care. Obviously, they care about how much more they make from it. But like I said, those are the two players that are making that money back. Ricky is awesome. Ricky has a huge following, but I don't know. I think it was dynamic chasing that, let's say we have $1 million contract and let's see how much that brings. The $250,000 per signing bonus in Bitcoin, like Matt was talking about. I think that brought a lot of huge amount of eyes to it. I mean, the video itself, the helicopters, everything like that, the announcement was massive. But at the same time, I think over that 4-year stretch, I mean, just going back to the AMA on Reddit with the guy who used to work at DD, and he had blatantly said it. Were their contracts worth it? No, they weren't. So, I mean, how much you take the truth out of that, who knows? I don't know the exact numbers of what they made, but at the same time, it's tough. It's tough to make over $1 million for a company as a player. It's just, it is what it is.
And that's what I was saying. It's complicated too, right? You can't pin it on one thing because there's so many things happened. With the COVID explosion, a little bit of kind of coming back down to earth. You also have the House of Discs, right? With kind of this venture capital really changing the game. You also had outside disc golf CEO making decisions. You see some people in our chat, I certainly feel it's the culture of DD like certainly changed over that time span. So it's like you could also envision a scenario where the deal could have paid off, right? And that's what I'm saying. It's not saying like Ricky didn't perform, like what in the world? Like he did, right? Like, so, and even Kona's situation, again, it maybe wasn't always about expecting her to win. And so like she still has social media presence and is still like on tour. So it's just, it's kind of saying, where do you point your finger? Probably mostly at DD, certainly not the players. I'm hoping in the end that this pays off for them. Like, I think for Ricky, it's got to suck because if you were guaranteed $1 million and now you're not getting $1 million, and I'm going to assume that's the case, right? But you got to roll with it. Like we all have careers and decisions, and sometimes you have up and down years, and you kind of roll with it and keep focusing on what you can, which is perform. Hey, and Ricky's probably primed to have another incredible year.
Josh, your summary of how it felt, accurate as well. I would have said the same thing, but I said something else, which was similar but different words. But I will also say we need to go around and say where we think he might go. Nick already said it, but I'm going to start with Ben. Ben, you might know. I feel like I know. So, like, if you know...
Everybody feels like they know until it's actually public.
If you know and you're not allowed to say, then don't answer. How about that? If I feel like I know, but I've never been told for sure, then I'm going to make a guess. So do you want to answer or not?
I figured this out kind of on my own.
Okay, then where do you think?
Telling me. I will say, no one told me not to say anything, but I don't know.
If you figured it out on your own.
I know. I just want people to get.
So then, give us your best guess.
Ben, I'm gonna say it for you, Ben. I'm gonna say it for you if you want me to.
You can say it.
Ben thinks Rick Craft.
Yes, Ben does.
That's what I think.
I do. I think Discraft too. And for a little bit.
And Nick knows.
No, I actually, funny enough,
Ben thinks
I don't actually know, and it's funny too because I've spoken to some people that I know up there, and
they won't tell
they
you.
would not give me an answer. So I was like, hey, I got to take it for what it's worth. They said no to me, and they didn't really go around the question. So
well, that's
like,
kind of
that. I haven't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I haven't
that's
had anyone be like. Like from the industry, be like, don't tell anyone. But like, I'm pretty just I've heard from different things. That's
so I will just say, like, go if you just dropped me into this conversation,
you'd be like, oh, it's.
I would say, no. If you just dropped me in, I would say this is crazy. Like Rick to Discraft, like so many factors.
It is crazy,
right? Meaning like the size of their team, the growth, the competition. I know it's not always a quote unquote team, but there is that vibe. You have some of the best in the game. You just had Climo sign. You've got like Macbeth, and then really like AB, and the list goes down, including FPO, MPO, right? Like they clearly have the A+ tier team, and then you say, so you don't have room for anyone else. Like, right? Never mind the fact that does it actually matter if Rick and Paul are on the same team? No, it doesn't. I think that'll work out just fine if that's the way it plays out. But like, my point is, if you dropped me into it, I'd be like, no way. Like, no way. So the fact that I am going to go and say, I think that's where he's going just shows that it feels like there's like a massive amount of evidence, which by the way is mostly based off of like social media and that. Like, so I did not talk to anybody at the expo about Rick's deal. I haven't like explored anywhere else except I hear rumors flying and text messages and social media. So I don't really know, but that's what it feels like. And it blows me away that I'm saying that because that's my point. It's like the equation doesn't work except for the rumor mill.
No one, like, I will give props to whoever because this is like literally the best kept secret. And because I still don't even know like I'm pretty confident, but like I'm not 100% sure. It wasn't like whatever from the horse's mouth, as they say. Like it was just like one of those things. But like this was a really well kept secret if it ends up being to Rick Kraft.
Absolutely. In fact, we could rate this now that we've all kind of made our picks.
The secret's kept.
I do feel like it's Disc Kraft, but there was a few times through the last month or 3 weeks or whatever it was when I started hearing this where I said, I don't know if it's going to be Disc Kraft. I feel like there's too much out there now where it could change from what I originally was feeling and hearing to, but now it's coming back into the finished stretch line. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's Disc Kraft. So that's my take. But I was off by 10 days earlier with my take, so maybe I'm off by a manufacturer.
I mean, biggest thing is Ulti World hasn't posted about it yet, so we don't know where he's going because we know, if they leak it, if anyone's going to leak something, they're going to leak it.
But I love this. That's what I was saying. Let's rate this in terms of big deals that have happened in the past. I remember Paul leaving Innova, Simon leaving Discmania. Eagle was pretty good, right? But like when you start ranking it, I feel like this, and I'm going to rate this on a few reasons. You said Ulti World. There's also other media in our disc sport, right? Foundation Disc Golf. There might be people in there who are playing it off as they don't know anything, but I'm pretty sure it's through social media or somewhere on the internet. Grip Locked literally was making guesses and takes saying absolutely Ricky will not leave Dynamic Discs. So like, again, they could be playing it off. I've been in that situation before, but why would they go so far as to say he's not leaving? So all I could say is it's really interesting. This one has been really kept under wraps, and I guarantee Rick has just been loving it. He's like, nobody, literally nobody. And, I'm part of that.
I'm still even skeptical. I don't even know.
Listen,
do we classify this as Drew Gibson's tweet of this is going to blow up the disc golf world or whatever it was? Like, do we classify this?
Doesn't he tweet that like every single year?
So I was just going to say,
like once a year.
And then when something happens, he's like, that's what I was talking about. I'm not giving him any credit here. Here's what I would say. Rick literally responds to me within a day or two, like always. He'll be like, oh, sorry, this or that. He always does. I sent him a text with a blue bubble. It went through. I don't know that he read it. He doesn't have that on. And I said, wow, Rick, big news on the horizon, I'm sure. When any news is ready to be announced, we'd love to chat about it with you for on our podcast. Thanks for considering it. Crickets. So I get it. It's almost been a week. He is that tight-lipped right now where he's literally not saying anything to anybody. So that's all I have to say.
There could be lots of reasons. Things have leaked out of that camp historically, and maybe not as much now because this, to me, may be a little bit similar to leaving Innova, but under totally different like vibes here, which is there's probably a lot of really specific legal stuff that has to happen to make this right. And can you imagine if like he knows he can't get anything with DD and then something crashes with this other contract? Then like what are you doing then? Right? Like somebody's going to obviously pick up Ricky, but my point is it may just be like, we need to make sure this plays out correctly. Like let's not mess around with any actual contracts. And again, just my thought. But
here's one of the things that I've been kind of thinking about lately is which manufacturer right now is playing the long game. And the example that I have with that is Paul. So Paul was with Innova for years and years and years and years. And then who was on Discraft in those years? Nate Doss. And then
Discraft was the opposite, right? It was so like yes.
But I'm saying like Discraft played the long game of like, hey, let's steadily build up.
The long game for what? For having pro players?
Then they got Paul.
No, but I mean for having pro players. And the reason I'm pushing back is because I'm saying, are we saying that they played the long game to get a stacked pro team or for their business to do good or both? Because I don't think you could say Innova played the short game. They played the long game, and I think they're just as successful. The difference is
definitely.
The difference is right who's their fan base.
Yeah, I'm saying right now in the world, like MVP, the second that Eagle was on the market or Simon was on the market, they jumped on them. DD jumped on Ricky. Like rather than saying like, and I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's say MVP never signed Eagle. And let's say MVP kind of rode the high of the James Conrad holy shot and then Simon Lizotte signing. Build that up for a couple years. Rick leaves DD mutually. And then it's like, hey, let's get Ricky Wysocki. Like, I'm not saying, Ricky or Eagle versus whatever, but like right now we feel like every single year, every single manufacturer at this point, I feel like is very, very pressured to sign that big name because they get that initial investment of, it's a brand new thing in the sport. We talked about this last week where everyone loves the brand new thing, right? They love trying new discs. They love, going to a new company. Jeremy Colling's one of the big examples right now about that. But like, look at Discraft and look at what their investment did, and it paid off. They waited and waited and waited till the time was right, and they saw Paul's vision. They pounced on it, and then look at what has happened from that. And then they've been able to build since then. Look at the team they have built
a brand that is attractive to anybody following the pro tour for sure. And anybody who is, whether they follow the pro tour or not, they must at some level to know AB, to know Paul. Like, you would kind of have to. You'd see names on a disc and not know what they meant otherwise. I guess all I'm trying to say is I see what you're saying as far as like the brand that they wanted to go for was this, and they're also being successful, I'm sure, outside of pro tour fans. But Innova was so established, they could have also kept or retained a lot of these players with money. And I think they'd be doing the same thing, looking as good as Discraft now for pro tour fans. And that's why I have to keep giving that, because I think we so often forget that the market is so much bigger than pro tour fans. Like, I don't know if astronomical is the right word. That's way too big. It's way bigger, and a large percentage. I would go as far as to say more than 50%. Like, is not, at least I'd probably go as far as 80% of disc golfers are not pro tour fans. So all I'm trying to say is, in the perspective of that, if you're just shopping at Walmart and Dick's and all these other places, you're seeing Innova. You go in pro shops, who has the most molds in the, like, if I live next to Marshall Street right now, Innova, it's like, you would think Innova is running the market. So all I'm saying is it's a different perspective. I see both of them.
Yes.
And right now they're killing it with pro tour fans. Absolutely killing it.
I was just about to bring that up, is like, take pro tour fans. Let's talk about that, because we feel like pro tour fans are the loudest, right? They're probably the loudest on Reddit, the loudest on YouTube channels, Twitter, or X, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Like, they are kind of the most outspoken right now in the sport. Do we feel like this is good or bad with Innova dropping, rather than signing anyone, right? Like,
it's a different game. It's a different game, to your point, and that's what I think you were asking or bringing.
Like
up.
Latitude, signed the big player this year. Discraft signed a couple big players this year so far.
Innova's long game is not the pro tour. That's their strategy. I don't want to say I have inside scoops, but I am in the team pages. They have different plans for how they're going to get to where they're going to get. You're going to see them in other countries doing other things. That's not an exclusive announcement. I'm just putting stuff out there. Like, they're going to be involved in a different way. I think they're looking at it differently. So
they were massive before the pro tour was even ever thought of.
Right.
They were the number one company in disc golf, and that's where, like, Innova's going to be completely fine if the disc golf pro tour shut down tomorrow.
But who looks better on tour? Discraft.
Yep.
Although Calvin's pretty cool.
MVP right now. Calvin's awesome. Dude, Calvin's the man. Calvin came out to the course a couple weeks ago. Calvin's the man.
So he can hold it down. And obviously the legacy of Nate Sexton in the fire. I mean, so anyways,
there's so many positives with it. This is just kind of
I loved your take. Like, I loved pushing back because it's staggered stance, baby. All right. I'm not facilitating this interview. I think we all are, but I'm going to say we've got Parker Welck lined up in the green room right now. Parker, you can hear us, thumbs up or something, or talk, or whatever. We'll get you on. Okay, cool. So we've got him in the green room. He's ready. We're going to bring him in, and we'll welcome him to the show. So let's do that. We'll just slide it in like this, and we'll say, welcome to the show, Parker. Good to have you, man. It's been about a year, I think. Or is it, Josh? Yeah, a year?
It's been 594 days.
Oh, a year and a half.
Parker
Stop it.
Yeah, when he won DDO.
No,
that's
for
when
real.
we had him, right?
How do you have that number
That's
up?
wild,
That's crazy.
Josh. No, dude. Right?
He's our archivist or something. That's how he works.
I always surprise people. 594 days, which was shortly after you won the Dynamic Discs Open in 2023. It was June 20th. So thanks for joining us again on the show. The show's actually shifted to some extent. We've got new hosts and new people and
new names.
Things changed. Yeah, things change over a year and a half, which is actually something I want to get to. Is like, well, what's changed for you? But first of all, again, welcome, and looking forward to having a discussion with you. So if you could actually so reflect a bit on your journey since 2023, you obviously got a win. You started really hot, kind of pre-tour, but pre-tour in 2024, right? And then got a new sponsor. And then you know how last year played out, and we can talk about that some. And then here you are heading into 2025. Again, a new sponsor. Congratulations on that. All these things we want to talk about. But just kind of reflect for you. That's a lot more experience on tour, a lot more events, a lot more tour life. How has it treated you, and how are you feeling heading into 2025?
Yeah, I mean, it's been so crazy winning that early on, being on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. No one really would expect someone to be out there for, I mean, for me, it was my first year basically. But I know I wasn't considered for the Rookie of the Year because I played, I think, a major, because I qualified for USDGC during Goat Hill, which I don't think was even on the Pro Tour. So, but it all happened so fast. It was so quick, and it was awesome. It was so cool, and just so much growth on social media after that win. You know, I was basically pretty much nobody's had my skate friends and all my friends back home and stuff. But now it's just growth. I think I'm almost at 10,000 followers on Instagram, which is my main social media. I'm going to start doing some YouTube here. But just, I mean, it's been crazy. This whole disc golf thing, never really thought that it could turn into an actual career. No one really thinks that, but here we are. We're getting paid to throw some plastic around and really work on it.
Did you just say your skate friend? So did you have a career in skateboarding before this?
No, I mean, not a career. I mean, I definitely grew up skating my entire life. That was my sport. You know, disc golf wasn't number one. It was always skating.
But, and I have some friends who do skating. They open a skate park up here in New England. It's awesome. It's an awesome sport to do. And there's probably not as much, it's bigger. It's in the Olympics. It has a lot of people doing it. I don't think there's as much money to be made, right? Is that true? To do a tournament, you're not going to make as much at a skating tournament unless it's
absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, you got your guys that get sponsored. You know, you can take your Nigel Houston, and he's getting paid just a ton of money. But it's kind of like disc golf, where you're only getting paid a ton of money if you're one of the elites. So
right,
pretty similar in that. But you're definitely making more just on disc golf, just from the competing aspect, I believe.
Right before we move back to disc golf talk, how long did you skate for?
Oh man, dude, I got seventh, maybe sixth grade. I got my first skateboard, and then I was just nonstop at the skate park all day, every day. So years and years and years of just dedicated skate life.
And so it's, in some ways, obviously you're a little rusty, but it's like riding a bike. What would be one of your go-to tricks right now if you were to get a board, and show me a few?
I think I could probably just kickflip, tray flip, hard flip were my three every time. And then, I could basically do any flat ground trick. I could never switch tray though. That was my one that I just could not do.
Awesome. I'm only smiling because I did a little Tony Hawk Pro Skater, baby. That's where I'm at, Tony Hawk. And then I did do a little bit of skating. My friends were always better than me. I now have a friend who is a professional skater. But anyways, that's cool. It's cool to hear that stuff as inside scoop. Disc golf's your thing now. Josh, I'll throw it back to you. Sorry, I just thought that was interesting.
I know Matt's gonna hijack and go down this whole path. I think Ben Calloway used to skate, and there's probably others on tour as well. So anyway, so I'm curious, did winning that early on in your disc golf career, do you feel I don't know if it's this simple, but did that help you? Did that hurt you? Maybe just reflect on that, because you talked about it was so early on. Did it give you a positive outlook? Did it mess with your expectations? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of both. I think at the start it was awesome. It was great. I didn't think that it could be a negative. And then after last year, not getting a win, we came pretty close, but we didn't actually get a win. It's just all right, this Parker dude is just completely washed. And it was my second year last year. And nobody realizes I'm still basically brand new to all these courses, and I'm still learning. I'm still dedicating all my time to disc golf just to progress, get better, and we're going out to attack this year. We're getting better. We're better than we've ever been.
Okay. Awesome. No, I appreciate the outlook. So heading into 2025, there's been a lot of discussion in this offseason of where disc golf is at kind of economically. Like we'll talk some very practically as well. But you navigated the sponsorship market and have landed with Dynamic Discs. Let us know a little bit about what that conversation was like as you left your prior sponsor and moved to this new one. Was that something you pursued, or like, do you have an agent, or like, just let us know how that played out for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was all kind of quick, to be honest. With DGA, they kind of just, I'm gonna call it blindsided me. I probably should have started talking to other companies sooner, but I just wanted to not, out of respect for DGA. And they were basically like, "Yeah, dude, you get 2 days to decide this is the offer right now." And I'm like, "Whoa!" And the offer was like basically the same thing as last year. So I mean, it could have happened, but I had a talk with my wife, and I wasn't even going to tour this year. That I ended up telling DGA, "No, that's just not going to happen. It's not good enough for me." And then I instantly reached out to Dynamic, because that's always been like, I mean, it fits right in with the DDO champion,
Right,
and
yep.
they're a company that I've always like really thought highly of. And I talked with Seth, and he was like on a flight. I'm not sure what he was doing. He was in like Sweden or something, but he was coming back, and he just I told him like, DJ's giving me an ultimatum right now. Can you do something? And he got on a flight, and then when the flight landed, he sent it over, the whole offer, everything. He's like, "We can do this for you." And I was blown away. It was so awesome to see how quick they wanted me on the team, and how much they believed in me, it felt like. And it was all just so cool. But I ended up taking that offer back to DGA, and they just pretty much said, there's no way where we can do that. But good luck. And obviously DJ, there's nothing bad between DJ and I love DJ for everything they had. I mean, Scott Kesey was like one of the main guys I talked to. Super cool dude. It seems like just a Santa Cruz like skater vibe guy, and that's all I'm about. So it was all good. Everything is just good between them. But Dynamic really believes in me, and I believe in Dynamic. So there's a great fit there.
Can I ask, first of all, congratulations on that. That sounds awesome. The fact that it was an offer that was more exciting to you. So that's fantastic. Being in Disc Golf Talk and hearing all the news and rumors and the AMAs from previous operations, all these things surrounding, there was a lot of news surrounding Dynamic Discs in this off season, including recently, obviously, the announcement and departure of Ricky and Kona. Had you been catching any of this rumor, or now some of it's not rumors, but any of this news like during this talk with DGA, or were you kind of oblivious to this and you're just excited what you knew about Dynamic?
I knew beforehand. Like, I mean, obviously Ricky and we live like pretty much right next to each other. We're really good friends. I consider him one of my best friends. So,
oh wow, okay.
I knew some stuff was happening. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I knew a lot of stuff beforehand, but that wasn't going to affect my decision of going to Dynamic. It would have been really nice to have a good friend on Dynamic, but it didn't happen that way. But I still got some other teammates. We just announced Evan Smith as well joining Team Dynamic recently, so congrats to him. Hopefully do some videos with him as well.
Yeah, and I think it just says a lot, like to me at least. It says a lot. And I wanted to ask that, where you knew at least whatever you knew, right? You're good friends with Rick. You knew stuff, whether he tells you more than he tells other people, I'd imagine is the case. But we were just talking. He's been so tight-lipped about this, right? Like super. But I think it says a lot that you're like, hey, that doesn't change the way I feel about DD. So I do with it what you will, fans listening to this. But I think that says a lot. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, like, quite frankly, to put it bluntly, like, any concerns with DD's ability to, like, longevity and be able to continue to meet the contract expectations from your standpoint?
Not at all. From what I know, Dynamic is just rock solid right now. I mean, really going to try and get this thing going. I'm trying to be the most electric player that has ever been on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, whether that means I'm winning tournaments or I'm just doing some insane celebrations after making a Circle 2 putt. It's going to be like that this year for me. I'm going to make videos. I'm going I'm just going to be all around, just have as much fun as I can and bring everyone on the journey with me.
Awesome. I love the enthusiasm. You made a comment about you were thinking about not going to tour. I just want to clarify, was that specifically after the DGA deal and you were like, oh, that's not going to be worth touring? That's where you were at when you reached out to DD?
Yeah, I mean, like there's so much more that I could be doing, and that whole time away, I'm married. As some of you guys know, I do have a wife, and she works remote as well, and it was so difficult last year not being able to see her as much as I wanted to see her. And going forward this year, she'll be able to fly out a lot more. I'll be able to come home like whenever. So it's going to be just everything I want. But originally, yes, we had kind of a tough talk, and I love disc golf, and I would still compete and everything. It's just I don't think I would be doing it full time.
Right. But with this new DD deal and sponsorship, you're talking really enthusiastic about attacking the season, which is great. Mm-hmm. So I think you just kind of mentioned it, but I want to ask more specifically, like, do you have actual goals? And if not goals, general expectations of how 2025 will play out for you, even to the point of like in 2023, you had 18 starts when we count elite events. Last year, you had 19 starts. Are you still tackling that same range of events? And, what are you trying to accomplish this year?
Yeah, I think I'll be playing that and maybe even more. I want to play everything I can and sprinkle a little bit on top. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be going to Europe this year as well, which I've never done before. You can't be a world champion unless you go to Worlds. So I'm going to definitely get out there and go do that. But I'm going to just focus on the things that I can control, the social media side of aspects. I'm going to, like I said, continue making videos and try to make it fun for everybody. But I'm also going to try as hard as I can to be the best disc golfer I can be. I took a lot of notes from Ezra Aderhold and Aaron Gossage last year specifically. Those guys do so much work that nobody sees. They have countless hours of field work, countless hours of putting. They have these giant bags that they bring with them on tour filled with just putters, and they're going out and 4 hours at a time just throwing up putts nonstop. And that's something that I watched them do and I wasn't doing before, and I am going to start doing this year.
Awesome. That's great. How do you actually tour on the road? Is this a van, a car?
Yeah, Airbnb? It's like split. It's split a little bit. Okay. I usually tour with like AB and Ulibarri and Adam Hammis, Austin Turner, Jake Brown through Airbnbs. But I do have my van that has a bed in it. So whenever we get to like a stop, like the Preserve, for example, it's so much fun to be out there in the van and just explore nature with all the other friends that live in their vans while they're on tour. And so I have the best of both worlds. I can choose to do either.
Okay, great. So changing topics a little bit. So you've been on the pro tour, really, I guess, for 2 full years, right? 23 and 24. Like you said, you dabbled in 22 and then forfeited your Rookie of the Year chance, right? Mm-hmm, unintentionally. But anyway, so 2 years on the tour. Just like any perspective as a player on the ground on what you're seeing with the evolution of the pro tour, like this will be fairly open, but like, what do you like about the pro tour events and series and standings? And maybe do you have any thoughts on what you'd like to see change? Just curious from a player's perspective. Media always has our input, but like, it's your career and you're out there. Any things you love or any critiques to offer?
I'm not sure if I have any critiques, but I will say that there's been like a lot of talk this offseason saying negative things about the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and they are the ones providing me with the opportunity to go out there and compete every week. So I'm not going to argue with anything that they say. They have done so much for us as players, and just a quick thank you to those guys for everything that they've done. It's been nothing but spectacular from my end.
Dude, Parker, I love that attitude. I love your attitude. You're hyped for everything right now. We were talking about this. We have been the last few weeks. It's just, Matt, you can go back up to 5.
Don't tell me what to do, Nick.
I like talking to everyone. I hate the single screen sometimes.
You don't know, but I have to do production stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Anyways, just talking about, switching sponsors, that kind of level of excitement that we see so many players get from making a big change. Yeah, I love the enthusiasm with all of it. Pumped to see you back out on the road. I'm glad that you are able to kind of fulfill that again, going back out and touring and doing what you love full time. But just the attitude towards, the Pro Tour in general. Like, don't get me wrong, the Pro Tour's made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Every single business out there is going to make a mistake here and there. But the livelihood that they do help some of you guys achieve, some of the players and everything like that, the payouts that they're constantly raising every single year, is pretty awesome to see. And I don't think that gets shined on enough in the player aspect of things. See, a lot of people absolutely love the Pro Tour, don't get me wrong, but there are players who are pretty outspoken about, oh, they did this, they did that, and then all of a sudden then you get all the, super loud people talking about it, but they do a lot. They work tirelessly, as someone who helps manage a course. I work with the Pro Tour throughout the whole year. The day that our tournament ended, we already started talking about 2025's event. And same exact thing's going to happen this year. The second our event ends, we're going to be talking about the next one to make it bigger and better for you guys. Because what it's all about for us is the spectators and the players. And so yeah, all of that. I'm pumped to see it, Parker.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. That's so cool.
Yep, very cool. So I'm being very intentional here. I am not trying to trip you up. But if Ricky's such good close friend, can you tell us where Ricky's going?
No, I cannot do that. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. I mean, I could have tried to be really sneaky and like say something. Do you know where he's going?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. we think we know, of course.
We think we know.
We all know. Just kidding.
Ben is very confident. Anyway, just kind of having fun with that. Obviously, literally, I tried to preface it. We're not trying to like fool you into that. I know it's. I'm sure there's lots of factors that go into it.
We were talking about it down while I was in La Mirada, and he had that post with like the LA Dodgers and stuff, and so I thought it was going to be hilarious if Steve Rico posted something with like a fake like silhouette of Ricky saying Ricky to Legacy. I think that would be like the most hilarious thing of all time.
Okay,
I think there was a little bit of a missed opportunity there.
So he's not going to Legacy. All right.
Oh, he tripped him up.
Oh no!
That was our front runner right
there. That's hilarious.
That's our thumbnail title tonight. Ricky is not going to Legacy. No, I'm kidding. But no, that's interesting. And now we're talking about Ricky. I mean, it is relevant news. We're glad you came on. I was just talking about how I'm using the word tight-lipped. I was trying to get us to rank as far as big moves have ever been concerned in the sport. A lot of them leak a lot. This one, I feel like there were some leaks, but majority of anyone talking disc golf was not sure. Majority, I still feel that way. So we're not even 100% sure. And usually we feel a lot stronger. So good job to him and good job to you. I mean, unless you've leaked it, but it doesn't seem like you're that kind of guy. So
no, never do that to Ricky.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, Parker, thank you. I mean, if Nick or Ben want to add anything, first of all, like, is there any particular, before we close it out, disc that's standing out to you with dynamic discs, like top of your bag? Often people want to know, like, what's standing out to you?
Oh man, obviously everyone knows this is my third company in 3 years. Started Prodigy and then DGA and now Dynamic. And every year it's just been so much fun throwing new discs and learning. And it's a lot easier to actually, complete your bag than a lot of people think. They think like, oh, new bag is it's gonna be a giant learning curve. But no, all discs are like essentially the same with some minor tweaks. You might have to do some small adjustments. But all the discs have just been like outstanding for me. The general has kind of surprised me, to be honest. Extremely straight bomber reliable for me, or even just the Justice, just super overstable. I'm happy to be throwing both of those. Even the Truth, super straight. It's just been so much fun. I mean, I've been talking to Eric McCabe a whole bunch, talking just discs in general, and he's been so much fun to talk to, and he's helping me get all these new cool runs and all sorts of stuff. So it's been really fun just being around dynamic discs.
Cool. That's awesome. Great. Well, I don't play a ton, very immature, and I have a mixed bag, but the EMAC Truth has long been my favorite, and I throw that anywhere and everywhere. So, well, congrats on the new sponsorship. Your enthusiasm is infectious. We'll be watching whether it's hype after a big Circle 2 putt or hopefully a win, whatever it takes, Parker. But again, thank you for joining our show, and best of luck. Obviously, the season's just a couple weeks away. And I know you've already played some events this year, but the Pro Tour season is a couple weeks away.
Yeah. We're get ready. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. All you guys are awesome. We'll see you guys next time. I'll be on whenever you guys want me to.
Awesome.
When you win this year.
Yeah, when you win.
When you win.
Peace out. Peace out, Parker.
Thank you, Parker. Thanks.
Do you like that? I mixed in the live audience from the expo, that feeling, that was pretty cool.
Nice. I like that.
Yep, that was cool. Unless you have any reflections on that, I want to bring up one or two.
My one reflection, I already reflected with him, but I'll just reiterate. Him saying he has zero concern, and I wrote it down, dynamic is rock solid. So I just feel like in the news that we've been hearing, for a player to go there and put their career and life, I don't want to say life earnings, but a wife and him trying to make a living, I think there's something to be said there.
Yeah, it sounds like he got a great deal.
Yeah. I think it's authentic, but just to kind of throw, of course you're going to say that about your newly signed sponsor. By the way, I am not saying that's what Parker's doing.
Would you turn down your similar contract with DGA for something you felt shaky about? I don't know that you would.
DGA's contract wasn't even going to allow him to tour this year.
He said it was similar to last year, which is what you're saying. Is okay.
Yeah. Anyway, by the way, my thought is Parker was authentic, so I think what you're saying is correct. I'm just saying you have to look at it and be like, every player we have on here says how amazing their new sponsor is. But anyway, Matt, not raining on your parade, but just offering another perspective to consider. I think Parker's genuinely excited. I think he reached out to Seth. I think it's a deal worth him touring. And we've talked on here before. I think DD is having some major troubles, but I've always said doing some extreme things is actually a sign of kind of restructuring in a positive way, right? I don't think DD's signing if they think they can't sustain his contract. So all that being said, I think he's right. He's got a good deal. He's going to lock it in. He's got the right attitude for the year, and congrats to him. And it should be awesome.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited for it. Just genuine excitement. As someone who I've been technically playing for Discraft since 2018. So however many years we're sitting on, 7 years, I guess. Every so often in the off season, people will say, "Hey, throw this disc, see what it does." And don't get me wrong, it's really fun throwing different discs. Now, my comfort level in my disc golf game with Discraft is, I've never been more comfortable in a sense, but it is really cool to see, players kind of reignite their passion, reignite their fire. It really does seem like Parker is thinking of all the right things right now, growing his social media, doing videos. He's watching what Aaron and Ezra are doing to get better and better, and he's now pursuing that a little bit more. Not saying that a company change is, why all of a sudden he's going to start practicing putting more, but at the same time, he seems genuinely happier in a sense. And I think that's a great thing for any touring player. I know everyone in the world will say, everyone that plays disc golf, "Oh man, I wish I could tour. I wish I could do it." It's a pretty grueling lifestyle. Don't get me wrong. The rewards of it are very, very rewarding. It's very, very fun to do, but it's not an easy lifestyle, and it's not for everyone. Parker, being one of the younger players on tour, he's married. You got to leave your wife for X amount of weeks or X amount of months at a time. That's heavy on a relationship. It's heavy on your mental state. It's heavy on your heart, everything like that. So having the opportunity now, signing a bigger deal with, you could say a bigger company, allows him to see his wife more. I mean, right then and there, most people are going to take the deal for that specific reason of, I get to have more family time. And I think that's huge for anyone in the world. So shout out to him. Love the enthusiasm for it. Pumped to see him play. Him winning DDO was such a Cinderella story, reminiscent of the Nathan Queen at the DGPT finale years ago. Things like that, just really rooting for the underdog. And Parker's a really likable kid. I don't know anyone out there that doesn't like Parker. He He hasn't. Not that I've seen. He hasn't done anything that's like, wow, the kid's kind of a chotch or whatever. Like he's a skater dude from California, and he just loves playing disc golf.
By the way, he's originally from Hawaii.
Hawaii.
And
Exactly.
Huntington Beach.
Yeah,
so,
and then he did a bunch
cool.
when Hawaii was going through all the wildfires and everything like that. He did as much as he could. He even came on our show and when we talked about it. He was donating some of his winnings. He was setting up pages to, for donations. I mean, kid's got a good heart from what it seems like. So that in and of itself is pretty awesome.
Yep,
I'm a fan.
For sure. Yeah, he won the B tier La Mirada Open last year. This year he played it and came in 12th place. But it sounds like he's geared up and kind of ready to push forward. And speaking of events this past weekend, so another noteworthy thing, La Mirada, which is a B tier, we don't talk about them a lot, but Kona first back at Innova. It was a 4-person field, but she wins. And congrats to Kona for a win. It's got to feel refreshing. I did not get to take it in, but I think she put something on Instagram talking about what it's like to come back to Innova and then win that event, which is an Innova event presented by Innova Disc Golf. So that's got to feel good. It'll be interesting to see as she kind of gets back to that family. And I mentioned that also, right? Because literally family's employed there. That's where she started. So that's why I'm using kind of that word. But we'll see what kind of performance, she has this year. Speaking of other events this past weekend, let's take 2 minutes on this because we don't talk about this a lot, but the Amateur Disc Golf Tour,
National Amateur Disc Golf Tour.
The national one was down at the course you work at, right, Nick?
Here at Olympus. Yeah,
exactly.
It was incredible.
So just tell us a little bit about it and who won. And
quick
then
little
recap.
Move to the Tallahassee Open. Shoot. Well, first off, I've been working on this event since I think last March, kind of planning and getting everything set up for it. So shout out to the NADGT crew. Kyle Motti was we had him on the show actually previously. Has been incredible through this whole process. David Felberg came down, and then Tony and Steve did a bunch of filming stuff. So it was really, really cool getting to spend time with Dave Felberg and helping him and his staff, try to run the best finale event that we could offer, right? And I don't think I heard a single person say they didn't love the course, right? Like every single one of these players came back, multiple saying it's their favorite course of all time now. They don't have anything like this at home, but it was super challenging. Our layout for the MPO division at this tournament was actually harder than the MPO layout that we did for the Q Series finale this year. Now, granted, we had a little bit more daylight, which was definitely helpful, but we're trying to explore new options to, really challenge all the best players that come to town, whether they're a high-level amateur or a high-level pro. We are trying to, challenge everyone, but kind of shouting out the winners in the MPO division, which was the MA1/MPO, I guess, was Lucas Carmichael and from Colorado. And then in the FPO division was Trinity Bryant, Florida's own Trinity Bryant, out in the Jacksonville area. So she's awesome. He's awesome. They both played incredible. Trinity had a wonderful last round. And it was fun to be a part of. And last thing that I'll say about this is I really want to shout out the NADGT. You can go and look at their payouts, and some of these amateurs are finally accepting cash for the first time. I think, FPO winner was $700 and maybe MPO $1,200, $1,500. I don't remember the exact numbers, whatever. But one of the biggest things about this was the two winners have every single Pro Tour event paid for this year. Any one of them that they play is completely paid for. So there in and of itself, someone do the math for me because I don't know what it is, but if there's 25 events, each one of these events is 250, it's literally the value that it was like a $12,000 or $15,000 value at the end of it. Worlds is paid for. Champions Cup is paid for. The amount of whatever you call it, I don't know, the amount of money that they technically did win is incredible. And Trinity's goal this year is Rookie of the Year. We hope to have her on the podcast soon. She wants to go out to a ton of events. I quickly got to talk with Lucas after his round, and he's going to try to hit up as many events as he can. But yeah, they're freaking paid for. And I was like, that I didn't even know that was something until Dave came up and told me about it. Cool. And I was like, dude, you got to be promoting that. That's the coolest thing in the world. That's breaking news in disc golf. That's a $10,000 to $12,000 value in and of itself. And so I thought that was incredible. It was a really fun event. We love hosting stuff at Olympus. We love challenging players as best as we can. And we had an awesome volunteer staff that I felt like just made so far out of all the events that we've ran there. It felt like the smoothest one. The course was in great condition. The volunteers and the staff were, not stressing out about anything. The snacks, dude, Dave Dave fed everyone lunch every single day, had plenty of water and snacks out on the course. We had an ice cream social on Saturday, putting games, ring of fires, everything like that. Like, honestly, and I said this at the players banquet, it's really, really cool to, and some of these players don't really get to like experience, like when I first got into the game, Matt showing me, 10, 12, 13 years ago, whatever it was, Dave Feldberg was one of the top guys. And then years and years later, I'm helping, run this business at Olympus, and I'm working directly in partnership with Dave Feldberg for his event. And it's really cool to see someone who I was a fan of back in the day. I'm still a fan of, don't get me wrong, in the disc golf, side of things. But it was really cool getting to work with him. And then these players, they're literally, their tournament director is a former world champion who just absolutely loves trying to grow the amateur division of things. And I literally just told them, just be thankful for these opportunities right now, because it's something that I didn't take advantage of when I played amateur. The first second that someone offered me $70 for like 6th place at a tournament, I took it because I needed the gas money to go home. And there go any AM Worlds, any AM Nats, any major amateur event. I never did any of those. Matt's always talked about Rochester when he went to AM Worlds with a bunch of our friends back in Massachusetts. And they always say, some of them say it's some of the best times that they've ever had. So to the amateur people who, you're not trying to do this as a full-time career or whatever, you don't care about the money that you make out of it, go explore all of these massive amateur events. Like, I'm actually looking forward to, in the next year or two, getting to go to these events more as, let's say a disc vendor or anything like that. But man, amateurs are awesome. Amateur events are really, really fun, and they're cool. Yeah. So, anyways, sorry I was over 2 minutes, but it was a great time.
It was a great time. But no, that's awesome. And we'll watch for players like that, especially whatever events they pop on the tour. And I know we even talked about it in our side chat about maybe having them on, and we just didn't quite pull the trigger on that. But that's awesome. So there was a big, I guess A tiers in and of themselves are supposed to be big, but the Tallahassee Open was this past weekend. The 20th Open at Tallahassee, sponsored by Visit Tallahassee Dynamic Discs. So seeing their name still out there sponsoring events. And really, for an off-season A tier, there's some recognizable names in both MPO and FPO, which is pretty cool. I know we're going to dive more into this in a little bit, so I'm literally just teasing it out there. But Grady Shue, if you've been following the sport for quite a few years, you're going to know that name. If you really only watch who's popping off on the Pro Tour in the last couple of years, you may not know, although maybe you'd recognize the last name. Grady Shue being married to Paige Shue, who is a prior FPO World Championship under the name of Paige Bjerkes. So congrats to Grady. And by the way, it was a really close event, and we're going to be talking to Grady Shue here shortly. So
by the way, if you're on YouTube and you look at the bottom right screen, you can see our latest subscriber, the executive director of the PDGA, Doug Bjerkes. Thanks for subscribing, Doug. Let's go.
Yeah. And thanks to Ben running Disc East. Got to see Doug in person last weekend. Time flies. Wow, that was only last weekend.
That was awesome. Shout out, Doug. Thanks for coming.
But hey, so we're going to be talking to Grady, so I'm going to spare a little bit of us diving into that event and how it came down the wire. But in FPO, another name that you may recognize if you don't get confused with her sister is Jordan Lins, who won the event. And behind that, Rebecca Cox, who we talked about, really had a great year last year. Lisa Fakis on there, and even some other names down the list, including Grady's wife, Paige, and a bunch of other names you would recognize. I could literally probably read almost all of them, and you might recognize the name if you follow the scene closely. So fun A tier down in Florida. I don't know what the weather was in Tallahassee, but it was probably nicer than up here in the Northeast. So
if it was anything like it was in Brooksville, it was an absolutely perfect weekend of disc golf. The weather right now has been insanely good.
Yeah. Awesome. So I know we're waiting to get to that particular interview. And while we wait for the world to know, Matt Graham has crossed a new threshold.
No. Matt.
It's just a number. It's just a number.
have made it to 40 years old, everybody. Yesterday was my birthday. I've celebrated
MP40.
It is MP40. Big Germ's been celebrating that fact. He can do it if he wants, and I am too.
Yeah.
We don't have much in common.
I want to get some. I want to get
printing
some
in our
guesses
age.
in the chat. But Matt, I want to get some guesses in the chat how old they thought you were.
Oh, dang it! Someone said 50.
Now that you told them you're 40.
Beautiful.
50. Oh my goodness.
Not,
it's just a number.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you.
It's just a number, but it's fun. It's a milestone. Yeah,
absolutely.
like nothing changes one day to the next. But growing up,
people have thought you were my younger brother at one point. Anyways, the beard and the beard.
It's the beard. It's the beard.
The beard will do that.
Can we get everyone in the chat just to say happy birthday to Matt? Like, I think that's
and F's in the chat.
Yeah. No,
all right.
Matt's actually an incredible singer. If anyone didn't know,
no.
Matt's a great singer.
Matt can't hold a note in a bucket.
Matt and my father used to be in a band together.
True. If they looked really hard, they'd have to be like an investigator.
They'd have to. Yep.
They could find it somewhere on the internet.
Yeah.
Let me see. There was a few things coming in here. One of them, Brixton said pop lock drop. I don't know if that was referred to something else.
That was the guess, the milestone.
Oh, speaking of pop drop lock, pop lock drop is the dance move, right? Pop drop lock is the game. Say that 3 times fast. We already teased it out. We're going to have other features coming. So be on the lookout. Things like being able to favorite users, so you can like compete directly against your friends. You'll just find them in the leaderboard list and be able to see at the top like who you're playing against. There'll be a lot of other little like quality of life upgrades. You'll have to do a little less selection. It's going to help you with information and things of that nature, as well as teasing this out. Simon Lizotte has agreed to play around at Maple Hill with the winner of the season-long standings for Pop Drop Lock. So make sure you're a free user of popdroplock.com. Just create that account. You'll be ready to go. The more you play the game, the more likely you are to win. Although we can talk more about that strategy when we get ready to relaunch it. But I'm convinced it's going to be the most consistent person with maybe one lucky week in there. But out of the whole season, I think that's who's going to get the prize. All right. Without further ado, can you hear us, Grady? You're in the green room. Can you hear us? Wonderful. We've got him all set to go here. So let's go ahead and bring into the show. Grady Shue. A lot of buttons I'm hitting. I think I hit 3 buttons in a row, and I think we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Grady.
Hi. Well, I'm so glad to be here.
Awesome. Fantastic win. I don't think there was any like live streaming coverage of it unless it was just a fan or a friend, but I was watching it on live scoring and it looked epic. I made up the storyline in my head and I watched how the strokes and the swings were happening. You can tell us about that, but ultimately you got the win and that's why you're on here. Spoiler. Starting out that round, going into it, were you tied for the lead or a couple back of Bradley?
Me and Joseph Anderson were both tied for second, 4 back of Bradley.
4 back. And did you think you had to do something special to take down this event, or did you feel like you were just going to wait for others to make a mistake and you just play your game?
The course is interesting. It's very, I don't want to say easy, but I feel like it's hard to get a lot of bogeys out there, but it's also hard to get a lot of birdies. So I just knew if I played somewhat okay and just kind of played the good percentages and stuff and made my putts, anything could happen. I mean, I think even Joey was right there too. I think everyone was on that lead card, like down to the end pretty much.
Yeah. I think if I remember, I'm trying to do a snapshot of the live scoring. Through the first 4 holes or 5 holes, you had pretty much made up everything you needed to, right? It was like you were maybe 1 back through the first 4 or 5.
Yeah, me and Joey both birdied the first 4 holes to bring it within 1. Yeah. That was pretty sweet to see.
And then Joey doubled. So now you're kind of separating a little bit from Joey. Bradley kind of played a little bit of a slow game, it seemed like, for a little bit there, and you were kind of consistent. And then Joey made a march, and this is what I'm playing it out in my head, watching live scoring. Yeah, and it looks like to me you were more or less tied. Bradley had fallen back, and you had like 4 or 5 holes left to go. So like you were tied maybe with 4 or 5 left, somewhere in there.
I was tied with 6 left.
6 left. And then slowly but surely, you got the last 4 or something, and Joey just couldn't or didn't. Maybe you could play that out for us. How did that work? Did you get some big birdies and he didn't, or did he miss some birdies that maybe he could have, should have got?
Yeah, going into was it 13 and 14? I feel like those are probably 2 of the easier holes on the course, and I think everyone else on the card birdied both of those, and I missed both of them. So that put me back pretty much like with only those last 4 holes to play. And they're, I mean, I don't want to say they're, easy, but they're definitely, you got to throw good shots to get putts on them. And I mean, the first one's probably the hardest out of all of them besides 18. Like it's a really far par 3. And I think me and Jake Mon birdied it. Joey and Bradley just didn't get close enough to have like guaranteed putts. 16 we all got, which was really good. That was cool to see. 17, Jake threw, I think, the only really good tee shot. Joey threw what looked like the best one, but it got really unlucky with like some kind of root or something like that. So it kept him really far away. And I threw some kind of shot that went through all the trees, and I was able to make a good like 60-footer or something like that. It like barely squeaked in. That was pretty epic. And then 18 is pretty crazy. I think I was more excited on 17 because I knew that anything can happen on 18 because it's like the basket's super elevated. Like it's a really difficult hole to even par, I feel like sometimes. So I knew just being close was all I wanted to do on that hole.
Awesome. So you have been touring for how long?
Good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
As far as like
started,
whether it's full time or not, you started dabbling in the Pro Tour or maybe even the National Tour. I don't know. How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, I think 2017 was the first time I did any kind of Pro Tour. I think is what it was then. Elite Series, I guess, is kind of what all the Pro Tours and NTs are what we call them now. But yeah, I did a little bit in 2017. I did really well for like all my first events. I think I got like 10th at Vibram, like 11th at GMC, and 12th at USDGC. Like my first events really playing them. So that was pretty good. And 2018 was my first full year on tour. 2019 we did a full year. 2020 we did half because COVID, and then we moved to Charlotte that year, and we had Savannah that year too. So we obviously didn't do a lot of touring after that. 2021 was pretty slow, and 2022. I think the last couple years we played at least like 6 events or so. Kind of getting back into it, but enough to, I guess, say kind of relevant. I don't know.
Hey, that's for us to speculate on. You can do it too, but maybe I always joke about the thumbnails and the clips we're going to use here. We'll just put that one up as your clip for tonight. Maybe I'm staying relevant. But that's interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, you've been doing it for a while. So, on the actual tour events last year, I could look it up, but how many did you get to play? Just a rough number.
I've got all the numbers.
All right, Josh. How many?
Not that we need them, but
maybe I don't have you on audio. Here you go.
All right, yeah, not that we need the details, because I actually think in a little bit I want to talk to you about, like, Matt's using the term touring player, but I actually think that's a question, right? Is like, are you actually touring? Don't answer that yet. But in 2024, you had 6 events.
Yep.
In 2023, you had 8 events, whereas most of our true touring players are anywhere from like 19 to 23 or so.
They try to get all of them.
Yeah. So, Matt, I don't know if you have a specific question. If not, I can kind of go with that.
I think I said, how long have you been touring? So there's a little bit of a difference there. A little bit. I feel like what would you consider touring, Grady? If you hit 3 or 4 events, or do you got to hit more than that?
I'll say I toured for 2.5 years at the beginning.
Okay.
And then I've recently been half touring for 2 years now.
So, okay. So there you go, Josh. Still touring. He just calls it half touring. We'll just say it's touring. It's just half. So I'll pass over to Josh in just a minute. But yeah, I mean, there's a few questions I have. One is, how has, first of all, congratulations. I know it's way removed. We had your wife on, I think closer to that. We were able to talk to her about some of her successes since having a child. So congratulations on Savannah. I'm sure that changed, or how did that change your disc golf career? Better, worse?
I mean, I guess better. I'm playing a lot better. I'm way higher rated now than I was, back when I didn't have a daughter. So
there you go.
I guess that's the secret.
Good. Savannah can watch this video in whatever AI world she's in the future, and she'll recall her dad talking positively.
Yeah, that might be why Matt's so bad at disc golf, because he only has sons.
Yep. No girls.
Why isn't Grady there? What did I do?
There he is.
No, I don't think he did anything. His connection was choppy.
Okay, it was like, what? It was, okay. And then the other question, can you hear us, Grady? Okay. He can't.
Got a nice freeze frame.
I'm going to throw this.
Yeah, I know, right? It's not a bad, thumbnail. Whenever
Grady,
I get put on thumbnails, I'm like, damn.
Grady, if you can hear us and when you hear us, just tell us. Be like, hey, I can hear you. I'm going to try a few things on this side possibly, but I was going to ask him, and maybe we will ask him this, but I didn't want to give him a setup. So I'm waiting to see if he's dropping out. So
while we have a quick potential 15 seconds, I do really quick. Okay. I do want to apologize to the chat. If I seem like I'm on my phone a lot, it's because I am right now. We're hosting the Supreme Flight Open at the end of this month, and there's a lot of moving parts with it. I'm getting a lot of texts from Pro Tour, other staff, and everything needs to be responded to as soon as possible. So anyways,
who
sorry.
do I need to talk to at the Pro Tour so they don't interrupt you during?
I know. Well, they're sending, all the equipment starting to get sent here. Got to make sure I'm there to sign for stuff, and it's just it's fun.
It's okay.
It's great. Ben knows all this. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you guys hosted like kids majors.
Getting text mid-show, so I definitely understand. Disc South is literally in less than a month, so
do we have Grady back yet? Cut me off when Grady's back.
But here's what I'm going to ask him when he comes back.
We have competing events, Nick. Oh my goodness, I just realized. Not competing, but on the same weekend.
Yes, we do have technically competing events. Yeah, exactly. Which I know, some of the vendors who are coming to my place are bummed that they're not going to your place, and so that's probably partially our fault for tournament scheduling and everything like that. I mean, but it's funny.
We'll schedule it.
Yeah, it's funny because, normally after the Disc East or the Disc Golf Expo, what it used to be, whatever, however you want, Northeast Disc Golf Expo, we talk about it afterwards and it's like, okay, it's done, and you're thinking what's going on next year. But Ben's right back in it. And literally in a month, less than a month, Ben's also got his expo Texas. Going. So,
yes.
Do you feel like, Ben, you're probably already doing, ticket sales and everything like that, but do you feel like so far it's been good feedback on, amount of people coming out?
Honestly, I'm honestly pleasantly surprised. Just kind of like with the vendors we're being able to get. We have more manufacturers coming in Disc South than Disc East, which doesn't make really sense in my brain, but it's happening, and then the ticket sales have been really awesome. So I'm really excited. It's the Texas community is showing love to me, and I'm excited to show them what we got cooking for Disc South.
Yeah. I saw Foundation is headed out there. They posted an announcement, so I'm sure that's huge. I mean, Brody's from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so I'm sure
he'll be in Supreme Flight though. I believe.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's probably one of the reasons they might also be going out there. I don't know, because I gotta think Virginia's it's probably closer to get to Massachusetts if they were to drive a van with all their stuff than it is to get to Texas. I mean, I think.
Hey, sorry to cut you off, Ben.
Are we good?
Did you send a message over to him, or can you, however you contacted him, and just let him know? Like, he can reuse
to come back.
He can reuse that link on any device. His wife's device, his father-in-law's device.
I just figured he was demonstrating like part-time touring. It's like part-time interviewing.
Part-time interviews.
Yeah, it's like I'll be back in.
He's not going to stay relevant if he keeps doing this.
Next year.
Totally kidding.
Dude, it's so funny. Parker's comment. Oh, Grady says I've been here. How does he?
Grady's here.
He's here.
I don't know.
Can he hear us?
Are we just casually
what's weird is I don't see him in our green.
Normally,
are these guys ignoring me?
No way.
No,
we don't see.
Tell him to jump out and then come back in.
That's weird. He's gonna have to close it or something. Because
that's what I mean.
Yeah, but Parker's our title right now says these players won't place top 10 at a DGB10T event this year, but they did last year. Parker's like, that's a wild comment to see after you just interviewed. And Grady talking about how he's like maybe or like not washed or anything, like as if
that's so bad.
We literally invite on the players that we don't think are gonna make top 10, and we title the
that's
show.
That's not the case. We have a segment later.
Oh my god. Okay, he's back.
Grady
can you hear us, Grady?
Like, oh yeah, like trying not to be washed or anything.
Can you hear us,
Grady?
Grady?
He said.
Okay, we're gonna bring
good.
him back in. We're gonna bring him back.
Sorry
in.
about
Bring him
that.
back
We were just waiting on
That's
you.
good.
Didn't know you were there.
Dude.
That's all right. My Wi-Fi went crazy.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's fine.
Oh my goodness, the title of the show. Were you joking with Ben on that?
Bad.
Is
No,
that
that
what
was
you
No,
said?
it's a Parker.
That was Parker.
Sorry.
commented
So
in
the
the
title of
chat.
our show so far for tonight, it may or may not stay this way, Grady, was these players won't place top 10 this year on tour.
Yeah.
And then we invite Parker and Grady onto our show. That was not intentional. It was not like the players were interviewing.
You guys aren't the reason.
You're
for
not
the
the
title.
segment. We'll readjust.
Yeah, it's
it.
for
We'll
it's
make
for a segment later on.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Okay,
There
good.
you
Yeah,
go.
staying relevant. Awesome. So, speaking of relevant, your father-in-law is relevant in disc golf, becoming the current executive director of the PDGA.
Yep.
I'm sure there's some level of feeling there, and I would imagine and this is me, no one wants to know how I'd feel if my dad was, but I'd be proud. How do you feel having your father-in-law in that role?
I mean, that's pretty cool. It's nice that we're kind of in the same line of work, I guess.
Yeah.
That's how you could put it.
I got a very important, serious question.
Yeah.
Do you get free PDGA memberships every year?
Ha.
Ooh. I'll have to ask that for Christmas now. That's a good one.
There you go.
Doug gifts you a PDGA membership. You're like, really?
That'd be pretty cool. He did get Savannah one when she was first born.
Nice.
That's cool. Okay, so that's different. I don't mean to like laugh about like
Oh,
that.
actually,
That's
I
different.
got a second question though. So we know that Doug is huge on collecting all the Page cards.
Yep.
Is Doug also huge on collecting all the Grady cards?
Yes, he is.
However many are out there,
Okay.
yes.
Oh,
I don't know if
okay.
there's that many.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
I
It
have
would
one.
have been pretty bad if he just was like, nah, just Page actually.
I've
Yeah,
given
Doug has a
Doug
great
Page
one. I'll
cards.
Put that in my shelf somewhere.
There you go.
Yeah.
Doug was
I've
just
got at least one.
Doug was just up at the expo up here, Disc East, and I saw him going around, and it's always great. Every time we see each other, it's great to see each other every time. It's great. But Ben, did he hit up Brixton? Any inside secrets on trying to get more Page cards out there? Like what happened? Did you see any conversations, Ben?
More
Well-
Page card. I mean, Page has a ton of cards out there. From this.
Yeah, but I
past
mean, did you
set.
see Doug like talking in the corner with Ryan of Brixton, like trying to wheel and deal?
No,
Like, yo, let me get that one of one.
Yeah.
I did not see. Maybe he's trying to wheel and deal and get Grady on the series next year. You
Oh.
know, I don't think you were. Were you this year? You might have.
Probably not. I didn't play too great at the events I think I played this year. So I don't know. I don't know what the qualifications are to get on the card.
Can you
I
kind
don't
of
either. I don't either. Ben Kenny has a card.
Okay.
Not really. I have an expo card. I don't.
I have
really
an
have
expo
it.
card.
I have a card. It's somewhere here.
Can I ask one last question? Then it's like more of a serious question, but like, what are your, and maybe Josh has this later on, but kind of at this point in your career and kind of life, you're a father, you're a husband,
Mhm.
so that takes a lot of, kind of prioritization, right?
Yeah.
What is kind of your goal in disc golf now? I mean, winning A tiers is badass. Winning A tiers, especially in the local scene of things, is like, damn, like he did it. That's sick. You have your name next to an A tier, and you probably have multiple of them at this point. But what are your legitimate goals in disc golf now at this point?
It's a good question. I think this was my 5th A tier win overall. So that's not too bad. If I get a couple more, I think it's about time I add like a Pro Tour on there or something like that, just to beef up the numbers a little bit. But I don't know. Maybe just playing better every year is nice. I like improving. So
What's it gonna
as long as I keep
take?
doing that.
What's it gonna take? I mean, do you feel how you played this weekend was good enough to win a Pro Tour? I know not everybody was there, but the way you played,
No.
did you feel that?
No, the first round was pretty poor. I think Bradley and Albert slayed and shot super well. So that's kind of what you got to do out on the Pro Tour now. You got to be shooting at least like close to hot round, almost every round, to be in contention for the lead. And I think if you put together just like a subpar round, unless you do something crazy, you're not really doing that anymore.
So then help us, the fans who didn't see live streaming of it, and we knew the talent that was there is pretty good. Where do you think you would have placed had it been a Pro Tour event? Because you won this one. Where do you think you would have placed?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Pretty good, right?
Well, I don't know. 'cause
Top 20?
I can't really say. Maybe.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's always a lot of people, getting closer to the top. There's always like more people at like 26. There's like 5, 27. There's more. So like I can't just say like, oh, I'm only 5 strokes off of what I think winning would be. So I would have gotten 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Top 20 sounds pretty good. I'd probably be happy with that, with how I felt like I played.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a general feel for you, Grady. Like, how did it go? How did it feel going out there? Josh, did you already ask this question? I missed it when we were going through all the tech stuff. Did you ask are you going on tour, Grady?
Kind of. Touring
half.
Again.
Okay, half.
Yeah, we're doing the first 5 events this year. So I think it's been a while since we played the first couple ones. So maybe after that, I think the last one we're playing is Austin. No, Kansas City Wide Open, I think, is the last one we're playing at the beginning of this year. And then we're going to take a break. But we're excited to kind of see that like consistent amount of tournaments, to see like where we place like in points or just how we play in general. The beginning of this year has a lot of, I'd say, more fun events to play. So usually if the event's more fun, you're more excited to play it, you're probably going to play better at it. And we're kind of avoiding the ones that we aren't excited to play.
So
makes sense.
One more, Josh. When you go out there and play these events,
mm-hmm.
do you just want to play the best you can? There's all different mindsets. Hey, just play the best I can. Or do you kind of have like, I hope I get, like, I want to get like a whatever place. Like I want to be happy and finish top 20 with some of these. Like what kind of mindset do you have?
Yeah, I don't think placement really like reflects how I feel like I played. I feel like it's more like how I feel like I've shot compared to myself almost. I don't know, it's kind of a weird way to put it.
No, I get it. You're competing against yourself. How does it feel? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like as long as it's rare that I'm happy with how I play. So if I feel like I'm happy with how I play, I know I played well. I do feel like the skills and the game I have, if I'm playing well, I think it definitely has a chance at most courses. I don't want to say at every course, because there's definitely some people who have more advantage and stuff like that. But yeah.
Before I throw it over to Josh, Grady Shue, someone said Grady Shue, hands up in the chat. That's my dude right there from a Harry Chase, Q series guy winning the tour.
Wait,
friend of ours up here too. Friend of ours up here.
I got something real quick. I know I do actually have a Grady Shue card right here.
Wonder Bread.
Hey,
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
It was right to my left. I thought, I was like, I'm pretty sure he has his own trading card this year, but because I remember Doug in the Discord of Brixton like reaching out like and trying to check out his list. So there you go. I just found this. Literally, it was to the left of me. Unironically, I promise I wasn't like planning this, but there you go.
Pretty clean.
Yeah.
Clean. All right, Josh. There you go.
Well,
we cut you off about 4 times.
Right, which means I have nothing left to talk about. Yeah, no, but I would like to kind of ask. I think we circled around this, and so maybe in some ways we've already asked it, but to try to put a point on it, I think it's great. Like I've always felt like, because I followed the tour for years, Grady, you have a very high ceiling. Like when you're playing well, you go out and win an event, like you just did this weekend at an A tier.
The lead card at Worlds.
Yep. 2 years ago, I think.
Yep. So very, very high ceiling. And then obviously you've got to balance this with like whatever your like life is complex, meaning like, tour, travel. What are you trying to accomplish? Your wife is also competitive in disc golf. You have a child, etc. So for those of us who have known your name, like what should we like expect over the coming years? Meaning like, are we going to have you on an interview again like this next year? And it's just like, hey, it's cool. Like you win an event and then you're going to tour some, or are you going to try to transition to play more, or just like curious where your mindset's at, like in the 5-year like plan?
Yeah. 5 years. Okay.
Maybe you need to like, stop and think and, talk to your wife about this before you put it out to the world, but
yeah, no,
just curious, like, where you're at, meaning like, are you wanting to go compete on the tour, or is this arrangement actually like exactly what you want?
Yes, I do want to play on the tour. I enjoy some of the courses that we play. I enjoy competing probably most of all, like about disc golf. I'm glad that, there's this competition and there's great players and you can go and try to show up every weekend, and, competition's always fun. Like no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So at least with that, yeah. Competition's my main focus, I guess. Even though like going on tour, it can be hard, especially if you're not playing great. It's hard to stay competitive and stuff, which is kind of why that we don't tour full time. I think 2018 and 2019 I did full years, and I remember at the end of both of them, even though I played like 35 events in 2018 and then probably 20 something in 2019. And I think at the end of 2019 I was super burnt out, and I didn't really enjoy it. I always like to try to model my tour schedule after like the old Chris Dickerson tour.
Oh,
where you just hit the good events, play a bunch of A tiers, make some bread, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And that's great. So, I mean, maybe we'll expect more of the same. And I presume because you do have that competitive fire, if the arrangements or opportunities change, you're saying you do like the tour. It's just a matter of balancing everything. That's kind of what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I feel like I can keep improving and getting better and hopefully start placing extremely well, hopefully winning some stuff, maybe the, more events will kind of open some doors for me. I'm not sure what exactly that will look like, but, I guess as long as I continue playing better, obviously the more successful you'll be.
Yep, for sure. Well, again, congrats on winning this past weekend in a hard fought battle. And then a couple weekends before that, I think you finished third at the Savannah Open, which is, I don't know if that's fun having the same name as your daughter or not, but that's a good performance. So starting the season well, obviously these are not elite series events, but again, that's a good start to the season.
Yeah, that's true. Shooting rounds above my rating always feels good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, you shot you shot the 2 hot rounds this weekend after the first round, right? Yeah. So, and both of those above your rating. So, well, again, thank you for joining. I don't know if the guys have anything else to add, but it's, again, those of us who have followed the sport for years, like I know your name, even though I know I haven't seen you really on tour much. Yeah. I still think you have a very high ceiling. Not that I know your game, but that's just like, when I think of you, like in the competitive world, that's what I think. I'm like, oh, I never know. Like Grady could like pop off. Granted, maybe your average is not at the very top, but rooting for you to play well, at least for the events you do get to enter.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I will say that I like saying my ceiling's high, I guess.
Yeah.
It has been nice ever since like 2023. I think I've continued to like shoot like at least a tournament where I shoot like my best average, and then like I do better next year, and I always shoot like another high rated round. Like I think the last couple years I've shot like a personal best high rated round.
Yep. Very good.
Hey, are you like, so talking about comfort on tour and dealing with all that, do you have any disc golf like sponsors like helping you like pursue any of this right now, or because you're not consistently on the tour, is that not something you're set up with?
Yeah, no, I am currently sponsored by Infinite Discs.
Ooh, there we go.
A couple other like smaller sponsors in there. I know that Squatch kind of helps out a little bit. Gosh, who else is there? Fly Green, Drive Bags, and gosh, I'm sure I'm missing a couple other ones in there. I'm sorry to whoever I didn't mention.
Yeah, but you know what? We don't put them on the spot either. Remember, all the players they're sponsoring. They'll forget some players they're sponsoring if we ask them on the spot too. They'd be like, "Oh, we're missing someone." So it goes both ways. We put someone on the spot. Yeah. Don't feel bad about it, frankly. But yeah, so it sounds like, yeah, I mean, that's cool. I think that to Josh's point, like you say the name Grady Shue, and there was a time and a place, and there's still like things like this just keep you, like you said, somewhat relevant. So if the ceiling's high, it's the opportunity's great. So keep on going, man.
Thank you. That's very true.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for joining.
And that's coming from coming from like a 905 rated player. Now I went from like 960 over the last few years down to like 905. It's just not good for me, but for you, just keep going, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anybody else before we let him go? No?
I'm good.
We've had enough of Grady? No, I'm kidding. That was awesome. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Grady.
Thank you, Grady.
Yeah, we'll catch you out there, man. Peace out.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Have a good one.
There you go, Grady Shue. I had to throw myself under the bus, of course. I'm like, keep going, bro. I'm a 905 rated player. And he goes, oof. The thing is, I'm a 905 PDGA rated player as of my last PDGA events. Frankly, put me in New England Team Challenge, man, right? Harry Chase in the chat. I hope he can put it out there. Like, I play way better than that in Team Challenge. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's enough of my excuses. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So we know Matt is not getting a top 10 this year at a Pro Tour event.
I got to change the title of this show. It doesn't feel right. Like the whole first 90 minutes is like these players will and we interview two guys.
Could you imagine if that's how we did it, where we're like, these are the players that we think are not going to make it, and then we say that afterwards. It's funny. It's funny that Parker caught that.
It would be pretty epic. Yeah, like we don't.
I was a little confused too when I read the title. I was like, what is that
I think it's awesome.
At least we didn't put their names, so we can get to that, Josh. Let's just yeah. We put
that's what I was going to say. So let's jump into it. So there's a reason that title was there. It was just, I mean, in some ways the title is trying to get people to listen, but really, let's talk about it. We just had this idea. We're getting close to the beginning of the season where there's going to be more speculation on like who's going to pop off, right? Who's going to drop, like all of those conversations we're going to have. We're still actually like 4 weeks away, or 3.5 or whatever it is, from the actual events like kicking off. But in the meantime, it's interesting because we're starting to see the field shape up a bit. And it was just going to be a conversation of like, let's look back, both MPO and FPO last year, and see who finished in the top 10. And in this case, I'm just talking like the DGPT world standings. And looking at the names, as you would expect, the top 10, there are a lot of good players in the top 10. And so I would say theoretically, every one of them probably has a shot at being in the top 10 again this year. But if you had to pick who's finished in the top 10 that you think may fall outside of the top 10, and that's the primary question. Now, if you want to say who's going to replace them, and you want to say here's who I think bumps into the top 10, like that's great for our discussion. That's the essence of it.
I was thinking the question was different. And I just want to rephrase so I'm on the same page with you. You're saying who will not finish in the top 10 standings? Is that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But we can go.
We could also change it later. I'll answer that first. But then to look at maybe who literally won't have a top 10 finish at an event this year that did last year. Anyways,
yes. So that list is much harder. I'd have to figure out who had top 10s.
True.
There's a lot of people who had top 10, like probably a couple hundred.
No, let's play that game.
No, I'm wrong. I did the math. It's all the events time. I was doing all the events times 10, but obviously there's a significant overlap.
Yes.
So maybe it's like
we need stat. Where's Statman when you need him?
That should be the over under. I know. We saw Evan last weekend. We're gonna get him
okay.
Back
Let's
on the
answer
show,
the question. Josh,
fear.
do you want to start us on that with your take? Because I got to look it up now. I was thinking something different.
Yeah, pull up the world standings.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to be most tempted to look at who came in 10th, right? Yeah. And say like, are they going to fall out of 10th? And I think that's reasonable because, by the way, just as a reminder, you ready for MPO? Here's your stack ranking. You've got Burr, Wysocki, Antela, Heimberg, Isaac Robinson, Paul Macbeth, Ezra Robinson, Anthony Barella. Those are your top 8. So first of all, like, are any of them falling outside of the top 10? Nick, any of those names?
No.
Like
Isaac Robinson potentially.
No, all of them are going to get a top 10.
No, not get a top 10. This is literally finish in the top 10.
I'm saying, are they going to finish the season?
Finish in the top 10 in the season.
So I'm not going. If I had to, I'm saying Antela and Isaac Robinson are most likely to finish outside top 10 in that list.
Antela would have been mine. Isaac, I think, is a wild, bizarre take, but Antela would have been mine.
Wild, bizarre take.
I just think
he didn't even average. He averaged like 16th all last year. Averaged.
So but wait, aren't we talking about him? What did he finish in?
Yeah, I thought are you talking about points? Isaac, points.
Everybody's like acting confused, but let's just be very clear.
Yeah,
go to the world standings at the end of the season.
And
I know some of you did, but I'm seeing lots of confused faces.
He's 4th.
He finished 5th.
The world rankings show him as 4th on mine.
Where are you guys?
What rankings are you?
I just want to make sure we're all in the same
PDGA world rankings.
No.
I'm looking at
Disc Golf Pro Tour World
DGPT.
Standings.
Oh my goodness! I'm at the official world.
I don't think I've
rankings.
ever looked at the PDGA. I don't think I've ever.
They launched the world rankings
points.
like a year or two ago. It was anyway.
I know, but it's like a 2-year rolling weighted algorithm, which is maybe great, but like we never talk
Disc
about
Golf
that.
Pro
Okay, so are we talking about Disc Golf Pro Tour World
Points.
Standings? Are we talking about these top 10 players still being like who's making it into this? Potentially who's dropping, who's making it into us?
Yes.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, sure. Just like look at the list of the names I read, and including Chris Dickerson and Kyle Klein.
This segment went
And
great.
who falls
5.
out of that top 10?
Antela and
Yes,
Klein would be if I'm picking 2. Antela and Klein. No, Antela and Dickerson if I'm picking 2.
Dickerson, slander. I'd go Klein.
And
I
by
want
the way,
him in the
right?
top
The whole
10, don't get
point
me
of this
wrong.
is to provoke. The whole point of this, if not obvious, we're a talk show, is to provoke conversation. To say like, think about how they played last year, and basically like, what's going to change, right? Somebody like Chris Dickerson to me was a weird year last year. What I mean by that is I felt like he flew below the radar, but actually did not have a terrible year. So it would be very easy in my mind for Chris Dickerson, even though it's like almost a year to forget, he could easily play higher than that.
Yes.
Like easily, right? So it's like I'm tempted to slide him out because he finished 9th, but in reality, I would say he had an off year and finished 9th, right? So like he easily pushes up to 8th or 7th or 6th unless you think he's not going to like improve.
Like if I'm going down this list, it's funny, James Proctor is in 13th. And in my head, James Proctor had a better year than Chris Dickerson. And so that's where, it's kind of like, that's why I don't think it's a bizarre take. Like, is Chris a top 10 player in the world? I think absolutely can be every single year, week in and week out. Yep. James Proctor was a huge, holy cow. James played incredible that season. What, 2 Pro Tour wins that year, last year? I know one huge one at Maple Hill. And so that's where it's just kind of like, I feel like we talked about James a lot more than we talked about Chris. That's the surprising
So this is the
factor for me.
exercises. So if you think Proctor is going to play up, who does he bump out?
That's where I think he bumps out Antela or Dickerson.
Right. Those are reasonable takes. Antela finished 3rd in the World Tour standings last year. So
is
you're
like,
talking
I think,
about a big drop.
I'm talking about big swing this one. I'm also, I'll be honest, and I've told Paul this before. I like looking at Paul's season. I'm blown away that he's an all-star in the sense of like he's in 6th with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, and I say that in all joke and love and everything like that, but it didn't seem like that was the kind of year that he had. But then all of a sudden he's 6th place in the standings.
But this is, by the way, let me add one thing, Matt, and then come right to you. Not only are you looking at the rankings, but kind of glance at the points too, because Paul had over 1,000 points and Proctor had 753. So just to be clear, there's a pretty big drop off. That's another way to kind of look at it. Like it's hard to make up that difference. But Matt, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I'm trying to understand a little bit here. I know how they get points. If you win a Pro Tour, if you win a major, if you win in a playoff, I can see it all there. You get more points.
Yeah, it's just all basically where it's finished placement.
Right. But when I look at Nicholas Antela, because we play the game pop, drop, lock, so I've got a lot of information here. He averaged 20th place, okay? Average, finishing at events, 20th. That doesn't mean he didn't have a first and then had like a 70th place. I get that. But he averaged 20th, and he did have a win.
He had 2 wins.
Right.
At least.
So then he also had swings the other direction, which is why there's a 20th place finish. But then you have like Isaac Robinson, who finished 16th place average over the season. So I'm just getting a feel for their seasons in that sense. And Isaac had not 2 worlds, back-to-back. He'd won another world. I'm just pointing out Nicholas in the world standings is higher than Isaac. And Isaac was finishing better on average. I get the wins are a big part of this, but like,
don't forget they also drop a certain number of events. Those are all factors. So like you're looking at a pure average and they don't all get accounted for. Like Antela lost, like he dropped events where he literally got only 1 point.
I see
out
that
of the
now.
mix.
Okay.
But Isaac Robinson dropped ones where he would have gotten 26 and 17 points and they're out of the mix.
I see that. So I'm going to change the game a bit because we've already kind of talked through maybe I think the players that are going to drop out. So I just want to take it and say, do I feel like this list was the right top 10? Now, obviously, that'd be me changing the whole stats and all the stuff for this game. I mean, for this listing of world rankings. But when I look at this, I don't feel like Nicholas, feel is the key word here. Points show it. I don't feel like Nicholas was 3rd in the PDGA or the world rankings here. I don't think that should have been the case. I don't think Yeah. Maybe
even with 2 wins and a second at the Worlds.
You think he was the third best player all year? When I look at this, to Nick's point,
third most points.
He did, but that's not what I'm trying to say. That is what it shows here. Of course, it shows that. I'm trying to say, does this feel right? And when I look down here and I see, to Nick's point, James Proctor in 13, how many of us feel like he played better year than Chris Dickerson? This was what Nick said, right? Like, it just feels like,
we talk about, we always say like better years by wins, right? You talk about wins all the time. We talk about wins. We interview winners, as much as we can. Like Anthony Barello is 8th in this. Ezra Robinson is above Anthony in the standings, has more points. He had a good season. Anthony had a great season in the sense of wins.
Well,
and
so
that's where
wins, but then he also finished like 40th and 60th, and like
exactly.
Consistency matters.
But I'll tell you this, I would take Anthony's season. If I could pick, I would take Anthony's season 10 times out of 10 over Ezra's season. When it comes to all the other things involved in disc golf, I would take Anthony's season every single time over Ezra's season. Both great, don't get me wrong, but those wins are so much greater for your brand as a disc golfer that's where I'm saying, I know that's off topic for what we're talking about right now, but that's, it's funny looking back at these standings.
AB through the first 5 events, averaged second place through the first 5 Pro Tour events, average second. Yeah. That's insane. So I just feel like some of these as far as world standings now, Simon, maybe he had an off year. So if we're going to pick who's going to make it in, I feel like Simon from 20th in these world rankings is going to make it into the top 10 this year. So like that would be pretty cool.
I can be sarcastic. I'm like, welcome to Stagger Stance, where Matt argues with math. But
no, this is not arguing with math. This is arguing with if this is the right system. Is this the right system? Like then the PDGA, to your point, Josh, the world rankings they have is arguing with this too, saying this is crap. So like Matt, everyone has their own standings. Everyone has their own standings.
PDGA takes in multiple years.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm saying anyone who makes a system, which is why people keep making systems. Like Steve Dodge, everyone's making their system because they feel like it's better. I'm saying this does not. They made the math. This is accurate. I don't think this looks accurate.
Matt, this is Ricky's type of standings. This is Mr. Consistency, Mrs. Consistency all year. That's what this rewards. That's what the DGPT standings rewards, is consistency throughout the year. So you look at the top 3 guys, obviously super consistent throughout the whole year. And Ricky talked about it. He's like, I'd rather be a consistent player than get that 1 win a year kind of thing. And I'm throwing words into his mouth more than likely. But at the same time, that's very, very rewarding in the DGPT world standings, is averaging better rather than wins.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But here's also what it's doing. And again, this is how they wanted their system to be. But it threw away like 52nd place, 57th place, 43rd place, 53rd place of Paul Macbeth. Threw them away. That's how the system works. But when I look at the season, that's not how it looks, right? So like, that's why when we see a 6th place on the world rankings, I'm going, their system is making that happen. It doesn't feel right. So, but that's not about how I feel. I just wanted to play that game. And Josh, to your point, it's kind of funny. The game is,
I mean, the game is, I said at the beginning, this is all about the conversation. So like that part's great. Ben, you want to add anything before we talk FPO?
No, I just said, I think Kyle Klein. That's mine. I think
will drop out
Everyone
or
else
come in.
Solid.
Drop out of the 10. He was 10th. So I'm always like,
he was kind of injured.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, last year is back. I think it was through like the first half of the tour. So we might see an improvement.
All right. Well, we know he's got the talent, but I'm always a little confused by him. Just me, I'm never quite sure what to expect, but he's great.
Well, because if you look at, I said, look at the first 1, 2, 3, 4 events he played, 56, 60th, 85, 20, like 72nd, 69. I think if you go towards the end of the season, you probably see some improvement. I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. You got 10th place. You have to see some improvement, right?
Yeah,
you can't not.
But then there you go, right? So that's somebody's in the top 10 who you say, I'm not saying you say it, but like he would stay in the top 10 or do better, which means somebody's sliding out, right? Like it'll be interesting. We should maybe I should try to make a note, because I think these topics are always more fun when we bring them back later. literally like a year, not a full year from now, but like in November, actually go back and just be like, so remember who the top 10 were? Like, this is what actually happened. So, maybe we can reflect on that. FPO, now that we've level set on the rules, even though we can argue with them, because this is not an actual game. If everyone were here, it'd be a real quiz and we would have winners and losers, but we don't. So, top 10 last year, Missy Gannon, Holland Hanley, Kristen Tatar, Owen Scoggins, Evelina Salonen, Ella Hansen, Kat Merch, Natalie Ryan, Henna Blomroos, and Anniken Christensen Steen. So that's who's in. So this is the question, is who falls out? It's all the same math, all the same calculations, and I'm totally fine with you making your opinion against it. Anybody feel like anything stands out there?
I think Anniken being in the top 10, like getting 10th place, is awesome. And that's who, as a potential, like Natalie and Anniken, that's who I'm kind of on the fence. The win is huge. And so it's like, if you don't get that win, where does she end up, right? Yeah. Even, whatever. But those would be my two, Natalie and Anniken, as a potential to squeak out of the top 10.
Yeah.
And then jumping into that, I think...
Because outside the top 10, you've got like Rebecca Cox, you have Paige Pierce.
Yep. Paige Pierce was going to be my person. Heidi Lane,
yeah,
who crushes the disc. New sponsor this year as well, Westside Discs, kind of where she's from. I think
so. It's just interesting when you see who's outside of it, because then you're like, oh, well, certainly one of them's going to play up in, and that's just the point. It's like, so who do they bump? And I think I would agree they probably bump who's on the threshold. Anniken's interesting because she had a win. She seems to be taking the sport very seriously, and it's like, I don't quite know, like, is she on an upward trajectory? Because literally that could be somebody you'd be surprised and they finish like 5th.
Just
right?
pop off.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not totally shocked, but I don't think we've seen enough to know that would play out. I also don't know Natalie's tour plans this year. Obviously, there's always additional speculation. Like, so that's kind of like when you're talking about math and points on the board, right? Like that's a factor, and that would create space in the top 10 if if it plays out that way. But I don't know.
Besides Anniken or Rebecca Cox, like swapping positions, like just like you said, like moving just past that little point there, I'm going to go further down and say Paige Pierce and it's not totally a wild card, but Emily Weatherman making it into the top 10. Yeah. So Paige would not surprise me at all. In fact, Paige could go from 14th all the way up to 3rd. Like, potentially. So like that one wouldn't be surprising to me. It's hard to bet on it when you're trying to bet on it all last year. But then again, coming out of rehabbing, an injury, maybe this year will be a real like teller of the truth, if you will, of where we're going to see her going forward. Not if she's a good player, but if she will be one of the greats continually. Do the Paul McBeth thing and get 6th place, right? I mean, like after a season would be like, wow, good job, Paige. But the Emily Weatherman one, while it might not be shocking, it would be impressive. So she showed some real signs of like she can do it. So let's see what that brings.
I'd say I think one person you guys have overlooked, and I'm offended by it, is Silva Saarinen. Silva Saarinen. I mean, she won. I know it was in Europe, but she won 5 in a row, which is like actually insane.
That's
so true. I think she's
finished in
13th
and just signed a really decent deal, multi-year deal, which sometimes is a relief for players, and that's a really good name to mention, Ben.
Hey, we've seen multi-year deals cripple players. We have seen it.
Yeah, well, if they announce it that they're getting it, what they're getting, that can hurt. But there's no expectations if no one knows what she's getting.
No, but we do know it's 4 years. But yes, agreed. We don't know anything else. I don't think, not that I know of. All right, so it's going to be interesting because there's just other, like, Haley King. Like, does anybody know what her tour plans are this year? She finished 12th, by the way, but I'm just saying, like, we always talk about the talents there. But
we don't even know where she's going sponsorship was.
She posts on her social media that she's throwing frisbees and loving playing at the courses. So disc golf is still a thing. But the fact that I have to say it like that is kind of weird, right? Disc golf's still a thing.
Well, that's my point. Is like, would you be surprised if Haley didn't really tour, picked some events she likes and plays well, and here's what's interesting for Haley. If this is my take, if she's in the right mental space, and I don't purely mean like mental health, I'm not talking about that. I just mean like competitive mental space. Like she could go and like perform incredibly well, and it would just be a weird like. She shows up at a few events that she likes and plays well.
I think
sounds
this
like a
is
good pop drop block exercise.
Shout out to Overthrow Disc Golf, assuming it's Josh, but maybe not. He commented
Josh.
she posted she was going to be announcing sponsor stuff soon.
Ooh,
I have the feeling if
fun.
we're going to make a pick on this, I have a feeling that she's going to be open bag with some sort of sponsorship just supporting touring efforts. Like maybe one significant one, maybe a few smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
Not because she doesn't deserve a big, whatever manufacturer sponsorship. I just don't see it happening right now. I don't know. Could it be something? Could it be a smaller brand? Maybe. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think it's one of the major, if you want to call them 4 or whatever. I don't think it's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Just a thought experiment. If you're a sponsor, do you try to sponsor Haley King? It's a weird thought exercise because we know her talent, we know her history on the tour, like wins, like all of that. But we've kind of seen maybe a shift in the way she's approaching it. Like, again, just like mental space about what she's trying to accomplish. And that alone would be like, okay, like, yeah, like what's your motivations and what are you trying to do? And maybe all that'll become incredibly clear once we see Haley on the tour and crushing it, right? Or not. All right, so one more question before we wrap our show, and this is probably something that may carry over into future shows. Not that it's that deep. Who's most likely to get their first tour win this year? So what I'm basically saying is out of the entire field, MPO and FPO, who do you think is going to get a win that has never had a win before? Anyone want to throw out a name?
I've
got names, but...
$20, Ben. $20.
I think there's been bets.
Oh yeah, next week, $20 bets episode. It's a sports betting episode.
Wait, does Henna really never not have a win at all? Is that true?
If you're talking elite, yeah, or disc golf pro tour, yeah.
Huh.
Henna, Like, I think are 2 very, very viable options for that. I got to go on to the MPO side of things now. It's tough. I wish we had like a pool of players who haven't. Ezra Robinson hasn't won a pro tour event. I think that's a big one. I think Ezra.
If you're going MPO, Ezra's on my list.
I think Ezra's definitely got to be on the list, right?
Yep. Yeah, I know we didn't prep a list, so it's just an interesting kind of discussion.
This is bad that I might not know this, but Aaron Gossage, has he won one yet?
He hasn't.
Multiple podiums. But hasn't won, correct?
Even like went like he was.
Like
about
we're talking
to
podium at Worlds, podium
it.
at OTB Open, like lead by 4 strokes at some point.
Adam Hammes circle 2 drills it to tie it up, and then was it playoff? Crazy stuff.
Yep.
What
he's
was
been close. So I think those are some good names for sure. And then the thing about getting a random win is there always could be that somebody who surprises you from like way down in like the
who's the Parker Welck? Like who's our Parker Welck this year?
Who's surprised
again,
us
I'm not
last year?
picking it, but experienced name, somebody like Bradley Williams. Would you really? Well, actually, he has a win.
He won the Preserve.
Yeah. Well, and
he won MVP Open.
He won the first one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
yeah.
Just going back on that topic of Henna not having one, Josh.
Yeah, I was looking.
I went back in 2021, so just after the pandemic years, to put this in perspective. It was not an elite series in the term of how we're thinking of it, so I think it's still accurate. But it was a significant event called 2021 European Disc Golf Championship. But like Simon was over there, and I'm talking MPO right now.
Oh, yeah,
But other than that, you didn't have a lot of looks like U.S. players. And I know Simon, but she won against a field of Kristen Lott, Evelina, Katie, Anakin, Heidi Line,
So
she did get a big win. That's a big win, but I still don't think it's an elite. It's not in that term.
No, and if you filter it the way we normally do elite, she has 8 second-place finishes.
Yeah. Ben's betting
in 6 third-place finishes. So, I mean, if she's taking it serious, then she's going to, you would think, should have a chance of pulling one off.
Ezra Aderholt hasn't won a big event. Same thing. Multiple podiums. Another name to kind of get that first big win. Not that he's I'm trying to scroll down the list right now, and I'm literally looking for who's that Parker Welck guy.
I think he won.
Parker Welck is like a real anomaly, though.
Yes, this is not a mean take,
but
but he won before he was ready to. And that's obviously like weird because no, he was ready to, he did it. But like it was like, dude, before his time, like he did.
But it was like, holy crap.
Yeah,
exactly. And like
I don't know who that
he did
story
everything.
would be.
Obviously, he did everything right at that tournament. You know, he has all the skills that you need.
Yeah,
He's got the power forehand, a great power backhand, and he's a great putter. So he literally has all the skills to do it. It was just it was
Casey
just
White not far enough down?
He did it.
Is Casey White not far enough down to say like it could be
It's funny
him?
because we've talked about Casey for so many years now. So it's like, can we consider Casey White him in a sense? Like, no.
And that's what I said. Casey, is he far enough down?
Casey's almost like at this point poised for that win in the sense he's put in the time and the effort. We've seen him on league cards. We've seen him in top 5s, top 10s all the time. So it's like
Paul Kranz.
Paul Kranz would be honest to goodness. Paul Kranz would be the Parker Welck. Serious. Like,
and am I
Paul
too
Kranz
wild to
that.
say? Is it too wild to say that we'll see like this is a friend of ours up here and a team member of my team challenge, Harry Chase. I frankly am stoked. I am like I cannot wait to see what Harry Chase does on tour. Yeah. Like I don't know.
Harry could go pop out something at Idlewild.
I know.
Like, do crush it like the Joey Buckets kind of thing.
I know. I'm so stoked. So we'll see. This has been fantastic conversation. As far as off season goes, man, we are just chomping at the bits, man.
Yeah, exactly. In a couple weeks, like then the news cycle starts, taking care of this for us, but it's fun to speculate. In the disc golf world, there's plenty of media published in the off season, but there's also so much we don't know because just the profile of the sport. We don't know which players are out there like practicing like ridiculous, right? We don't know who've kind of reworked their form in the off season and figure something out. We don't know whose travel arrangements are different, or again, like I keep talking about your mental space. There's so much that can happen that can literally shift. You could have a player in the top 10 fall way out just because something changes in their life, right? So that's why we're so eager to see like what actually happens on the course. Can't wait. But we'll have plenty of speculation in the coming weeks. I'm sure we'll have some good interviews and all of that leading into the kickoff. And hopefully Ricky gets back to your text, Matt. That's what we need.
I think he will. I think he's literally being that tight-lipped until it happens. I think it's not even worth him saying, yes, I will, or when something happens, I'll let you know. Like, he doesn't want any conversation. And, so that's just where it's at right now. But yeah, hopefully he does. I'm not making a take on when he announces. And I also am not sure that there's any reason for him to announce it unless he's trying to give his sponsor, if he's going to announce a sponsor, unless he's trying to give them publicity before the tour starts. Like if I was him, it could be really fun just to announce the day of or the night before.
It would almost be cool to, I was going to say like you have it on the video.
Make it like a marketing plan and honestly launch when everything's ready because he is not getting any benefit by announcing tomorrow versus like next Tuesday, right? Like there just isn't at this point. The rumor's already drawn up. He's already leaving DD. Like you try to time it right. You make sure you've got whatever discs you want to sell with your name on it or merch or whatever the announcements are and just have it all like primed and prepped. Right? Why? And like you said, maybe actually think about the fun marketing spin of building the anxiety. Where's Ricky gonna go?
Let the announcer on hole one.
Yeah. Step up to hole one and take off the sweatshirt.
Here's the one problem with that. We already believe there's enough leaks out there, so we have an opinion. But like, you really think you could really keep it under hardcore wraps for 3 more weeks?
Especially when they start throwing. Especially
discs.
when they start practicing.
I've heard he already is. He's put pictures online that you can't see what it is. So like, boy, it's only a matter of time. We tried to get it out of Parker, but we were too nice. I didn't try.
We didn't pressure him.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to the end of the show.
Yeah, should be some interesting stuff happening in the next few weeks. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to our wonderful live episode of Staggered Stance. Shout out to Titan Disc Golf for all the sponsorship and helping us out really pursue what we call, our favorite show to do. It's awesome. We appreciate every single one of you. Check us out on all of the podcast platforms. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, just like Doug Bierkus most recently did. So, anyways, tell someone you love them this week. We'll catch you guys all.
Let's play a game. How long will Doug's name stay up there? Frankly, we've been slowing down on new subscribers.
Yeah, 1 week.
We actually popped off for a little bit. We popped off, and now it's slowed down again. And let's see
I think it's 1 week. We're gonna see a new name.
Okay.
We might even see a new name tonight by the end of this outro.
Actually, how long does that take to update? It might be quick.
That's what I'm saying.
Quick.
I don't think it's
guys,
every subscriber. It just randomly every
picks.
subscriber. It's like randomly picks. Yeah,
that's funny.
So if I
We should say
subscribe,
this season is our show gonna pop off drop. Pop
yeah.
off and drop.
Oh, I think we're popping.
Do we make a podcast
off
off
the low, boys, and then now we're getting some
getting
good numbers.
Season's about to start here in Brooksville, Florida. We're stoked about it. So
awesome. Well,
All right.
good talking, everybody. Until next week, we'll catch you out there. Peace out, everybody.